You are now tuned into the network, the YouTube channel that takes complex networking topics and dumbs them down into a more simpler language. Today's topic is configure and verify Cisco NetFlow. We've got three subsections we're going to cover today: NetFlow version 5, version 9, local retrieval, and export. We're kind of briefly going to talk about some of those subjects. But anyways, these are topics in the CCNP ROUTE exam. It'll be known as the CCNP Enterprise exam come February 24th, 2020. Let's go ahead and take a look at the exam blueprint to see where we came from and where we're headed. Hashtag labeveryday. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Please hit that like button when you leave and hit that notification bell next to the subscribe button. That'll let you know when I upload these videos. All right, this is the exam blueprint. Implemented Cisco IP routing, exam code 300-101. It'll be 300-401 in the future. We just wrapped up the section tracking different entities, or basically tracking objects. Today we are going to be wrapping up this video series. This has been a long time coming. I've been studying this longer. This is probably one of the longest I've studied for a Cisco exam. Anyways, or an IT exam in general. It's been about, 10 months ago I started this channel. But anyways, this is the last section. We're going to do all these sections right here, subsections, in one video, and fire up Boston NetSyn and kind of experiment a little bit with NetFlow. And finally, once I've wrapped up these video series, I have some missing topics in this video series, and I may just re-upload those or just re-record them, because I did have them. I just didn't like the way they turned out. But anyways, what is NetFlow? So NetFlow is basically an application that Cisco came out with that analyzes the traffic that's coming in and out of your network. Or not even necessarily in and out of your network, but in and out of a specific router, it could be. There's a lot of tools that are out there that you can use, third-party tools that you can use to analyze the traffic that's going in and out of your network. But Cisco don't really care about how well-versed you are in SolarWinds or any other third-party application. Let's go ahead and head over to the slides for the official definition. NetFlow is a feature that was introduced on Cisco routers around 1996 that provides the ability to collect IP network traffic as it enters or exits an interface. By analyzing data provided by NetFlow, a network administrator can determine such things such as the source and destination of traffic, class of service, and the causes of congestion. So, if you're trying to figure out who the hell is watching, Netflix all day on the clock, or who's listening to, who's streaming Apple Music, you can use NetFlow to determine who in your department or who in your organization is doing all of that. Most NetFlow devices support export versions 1, 5, and 9. However, version 1 is used by default. So if you don't really specify a version, I believe version 1 will be used by default. This is just a screenshot. Now, we're not going to be, doing all of this, analyzing it. You'll see pretty little, pie charts and graphs and stuff like that if you really fully utilize NetFlow. But you will need a third-party tool like this to see this, right? But you will configure it in the command line interface, or the CLI, and then you can export it to what's called an analyzer. And then you could see it on your screen and visualize where or how your traffic is coming in and out of your network. So before we talk about the configuration of NetFlow, let's talk about the components of a typical NetFlow architecture, right? A typical flow monitoring setup using NetFlow consists of three main components. Now the fourth one is optional, so that's why we say three. We have the flow exporter, which will basically be the router. So this would be your router. That will be the device that is, basically exporting the NetFlow information, right? Then you have the collector, which is responsible for reception, storage, and pre-processing of flow data received from a flow exporter. Now, this is the collector right here, right? So you have the router that we're going to be dealing with, right? Because this is what we're studying for, the CCNP ROUTE exam, right? We are going to configure NetFlow on here, and then we will configure what's called an Ingress interface and an outgoing interface called Egress, right? We talked about this, I believe, in the first video of what the differences between the two are, right? But anyways, we'll export the traffic to the collector, and again, the collector is responsible for reception and storage, right? Then we have the analysis application, which will be where this guy is sitting by at the laptop. He is going to see basically the colorful graphs and stuff. This all you see right here with the pie charts and all of that, and figure out, who the top talkers are, that basically who are the people that are using most of the bandwidth on your network. And you could sort it. You can figure out who is using, streaming most of the, Hulu and all of that, right? That's basically what you're doing. But you'll see this on the analysis console or the analysis application. It analyzes received flow data in context of intrusion detection or traffic profiling, for example, right? Then we have the NetFlow cache, which is optional. In this architecture right here, it is known as the flow storage. So this is where we're basically can store our, NetFlow captures, right? Again, this is optional. This is the record of each active flow that is maintained in the cache, or again, the flow storage. Again, the storage is optional. So we don't necessarily have to store all of our stuff because, we're collecting data all day long. That can be, a lot of storage we're using up. Here are the requirements for NetFlow. NetFlow captures statistics on IP flows through a device, right? It is used on top of an existing switching path, such as CEF. That's Cisco Express Forwarding. If you don't know what that is, go to the first video in this playlist. It uses the following fields to identify a unique flow: source IP address, source port number, destination port number, layer 3 protocol type of service, and logical input interface. Let's just run through this real quick. There's two versions. Actually, there's a couple versions. The most common are version 5 and version 9, which is why that's where all we're going to cover. There's also version 1. There's 2 and 3 that really didn't really come out, I believe. And there's 7 and 8. They just didn't really come out. But anyways, these are the most common ones, 5 and 9. That's why Cisco only requires us to configure those two. Version 5 is a fixed format that can not be added or extended. This is only for IPv4. They added BGP support with it. Export data from the main cache only, and no real concept of ingress and egress flows. Remember, that's ingress is basically incoming traffic. Egress is traffic going outbound. Then we have version 9, which supports IPv6. It's not backwards compatible with any other version. So if you've got one device using version 5, one device using version 9, obviously they're not going to be able to export information to each other. Is added additional information to flows on and template based. Exports data from main and aggregation cache, and support for MPLS. Here's the basic configuration. You go to the interface config mode. You define which one is going to be ingress, which is basically traffic going inbound, right? Then you are going to you could set another interface with outbound traffic, right? So traffic coming in, right? And then the egress will be outbound. That's where you're going to export your data out of your egress interface. Local retrieval is basically, instead of seeing it exported to a third-party tool like this, where you're seeing the pie charts and these pretty little bar graphs and stuff like that, instead of doing this, you can do local retrieval, which is basically you retrieving the information and seeing it in the CLI or the command line interface, right? And that's what we're going to do on Boston NetSim. We're not going to add a third-party tool. That's kind of out of scope of the exam because it's just not really, it's not even a requirement, right? So we're going to do local retrieval, and that's why Cisco wanted us to do this. And that's what we're going to set up in Boston NetSim. You just do IP flow top talkers. However, you could also do, I believe it's IP flow cache. That's the other way you can do it. And that's how I believe we're going to do it in Boston NetSim. You can you can ask for the top 10 top talkers. So that's basically who are the top 10 people using up my bandwidth. You can change that up. You can do top 5, or dead or alive, whatever. And then you can sort by, these are optional. This is optional right here. And then you can view the flows with show IP flow top talkers. And then there's other commands as well. We'll go over the show commands in Boston NetSim as well. Or you can export it. For the exam, we only have to do the configuration for export. We just need to know how to configure it. So IP flow export destination. You do the IP address and the report, and then I believe we're going to do this in Boston NetSim as well. IP flow export, and then you just choose the version, either 5 or 9. Again, by default, is version 1. So let's go ahead and fire up Boston NetSim and do the standalone lab, NetFlow. All right, so here's the lab we're going to be working with today. We've got router 1, 2, and 3 up here, right? Then we have this guy who I believe will be a collector. No, I don't even think he'll be a collector. Then we have another local network over here. In this lab, we're going to use basic commands. This is going to be a real short lab, so we're not going to do every single command for NetFlow. But yes, we are going to do most of the ones that we just covered on the slides right there. Most of the configuration will be done, I believe, on router 1. Here's another picture of the topology. Basic commands that y'all should know already. Here is the IP flow, if you want to pause it and freeze frame it here. Again, those are the IP flow configuration. We have our show commands right here. Remember I said it was, the other one was show IP flow top talkers. The other way you can see it to view basic NetFlow statistics is show IP cache flow, which is, I was correct. That's what it was. And let's go ahead and jump right into it. This is the addressing guide, IP addressing guide. Task 1, configure NetFlow. In this task, we'll configure NetFlow, basically. Step 1, for what purpose would you typically use the Cisco NetFlow feature on a router? I don't know. Figure out who the heck is streaming the UFC fight overnight. You know those overnight people working over there. Basically, we just want to analyze our traffic. Step 2. Question 2, rather. What is a drawback to using the NetFlow feature? I don't know. It's difficult to set up. No, it ain't really that difficult to set up, but who knows? Who cares? I believe maybe it's, I don't even know. Question 3. Configure NetFlow for inbound traffic on the fast Ethernet 00 interface of router 1. So we're going to do configure NetFlow. We're going to go on router 1, right? We know that we need to go to privileged exec mode with enable and go to global config mode. We said to set up inbound traffic. Inbound is ingress. Outbound is egress. Just remember this. In for inbound, ingress, and egg or exit for egress. So inbound, outbound traffic. So we're going to go to interface FA 0/0. We're going to say IP flow. We said inbound traffic. So ingress. Step 4, configure NetFlow for outbound traffic on the FA01 interface. So now we're going to get out of this, go to interface FA0/1. We're going to say IP flow egress for outbound traffic, correct? Question 5, what is the default NetFlow data export format on Cisco routers? We said that version 1 is used by default. Question 6, configure router 1 with the highest supported format for NetFlow export data. Now we said there's versions what? 1, 5, and 7, or 1, 5, and 9. There's also 7, there's also like 2 and 3, but most of them support 1, 5, and 9. So let's see what this router does. Remember, this is a simulator. You're probably going to get more options than this on GNS3 or on hardware. So let's get out of this and do, we said to configure it, we said IP flow export version. Which version we have here? We got 1, 5, and 9. He said the highest supported, which is 9. We just put a 9 there. We got a carriage return, so we just press enter. 7, where is the data collected by NetFlow stored? We said it's going to be collected by, it's going to be stored by the collector. It's responsible for reception, storage, and pre-processing of flow data received from a flow exporter. So this guy's the flow exporter, and this guy is the collector. I don't know if we have a collector on this lab here. I haven't really, I have done it, but I don't remember. Let's see what the collector is. I don't even think we got a collector in this topology here. Step 8, configure router 1 to export NetFlow data records to a NetFlow collector with an IP address of 1234, listening on port 9999. All right, we said to do that. We said it's IP flow export. What we got here, we already declared what version it should be. So we're going to say destination. What's the destination? He said 1234. So it's 1.2.3.4. And then what else we got here? He said listening on port 9999, but it's asking us for the port number here, right? So we do 9999. We do a context sensitive help, and it says here, do you want to export over SCTP or export over UDP? Well, he didn't specify which protocol, so we're just going to leave that as is, right? Hit enter there. Step 9, configure router 1 to export NetFlow data records to a NetFlow collector with an IP address of 4.3.2.1. That's what we meant to do. So IP flow export destination was 4.3.2.1 with a port number of 8888. This time he said SCTP port. So now we do SCTP. After that, carriage return. So that's the other command. right? Task 2, verify the NetFlow configuration. So this tells us we need to do some show commands here, right? In this task, you'll verify the configuration of router 1. On router 1, view a summary output of the basic NetFlow configuration of each interface. Which interfaces are configured to monitor inbound and outbound traffic, right? How do we do that? Well, we know it's a show command, so we say show IP flow interface. We could just push enter here, and there it is. This tells us that FA00 is our Ingress port, and FA01 is our Egress port. On router 1, check the NetFlow data export format. Which data export format is being used? We're going to say show IP. What else do we have here? I believe it's flow export, and that's it. Show IP flow export. And he asked which data export format is being used. We can go to the top and see that it's flow export version 9 is enabled for main cache. Question 3, how many NetFlow collector addresses are configured? Looks like we've got this destination, and we also have that as a destination. That's the port number via SCTP. Notice we've got some 9 flow records. On router 1, display the NetFlow statistics that include the number of flows per protocol and the source and destination IP addresses associated with each flow. How many TCP? Well, let's just do this first because they put a whole bunch of questions in one. So let's just do show IP, and I believe it's cache. That one took a little bit for me. And then we do flow. Remember, now on other Cisco IOSs, you do show IP flow top talkers. That's how you can figure out the NetFlow statistics. I used to do this at my job a lot. And we used to export our data through a third-party tool called StatSeeker. And that's how we was able to figure out our top talkers on our WAN interfaces. But anyways, we do show IP cache flow, hit enter here, and this gives us a wealth of information here. What was the question they wanted to see? They said, how many TCP www flows are there? Well, we've got TCP www, we've got 68 right there, as you can see. We go scroll to the top and we see all of this other information here. A lot of information, which may be a little out of scope of the exam. I doubt they'll make us, configure this or anything like that. I don't know if there's any sims on it. I've never taken the exam yet, so I couldn't tell you. But obviously, the more you do this stuff, the better for you, right? So you'll be able to look up information quicker if you run these show commands. Know your show. That's something I might trademark too. Know your show. In other words, know your show commands, right? How many packets have been transmitted between the 10.10.10.2 and 172.16.10.4 IP addresses? Well, let's see. It's a source destination. Oh, between 10.10.2 and 10.4. So there's 10.10.2, there's 10.4. So we've got 65 packets basically. So yeah, right there, 65 packets right there, right? Because this is the source. And there's the destination. I believe that was the last question. Yep. That is all I got for y'all today. I'd like to thank you guys for the long ride and watching these videos. I believe we're about 106, 107 videos deep. I've got about 4 or 5 that I was missing that I skipped because there were some topics that I was kind of struggling with. And some of them I left as private because I didn't like the way they turned out. And some I had to just re-record. So I'll, maybe throughout the weeks, I'll be releasing those. Just keep an eye out on those. For now, I want to thank you guys for, just coming along for this ride. If you're not subscribed to this channel, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. My plans for this channel is after taking this exam, I'm going to take the next probably month or 2 before I take this exam, and then just, just hammer it down with these, with these practice questions and do some rereading. I, believe it or not, rewatch my videos to help cement these topics and theory in my head. I'm going to continue labbing with my hardware with GNS3 as well as Boston NetSim, maybe a little bit of Packet Tracer. So I hope you guys are doing the same. Make sure you're labbing every day. You know, even if it's just like 30 minutes to an hour, if you have a family, there's no excuse. You know what I mean? You can lab every day. Make sure you guys do that. I will let y'all know when I pass the exam, because I promise you I will pass that exam. What else I got for y'all? I've got a couple other things for this channel. I already took the switch exam, but I will continue that series. By the way, that is how the topic, I believe it was SDM templates, is what got me to start this channel. But I will finish that series for those of you guys that are taking the switch exam as well. Same format. I don't think I'm going to do one for T-Shoot, but I will definitely take the T-Shoot exam and maybe give my thoughts on it. But I don't think I'm going to do a whole video series on T-Shoot. You're just going to have to take all of this theory that you've learned from these series and apply it to T-Shoot, because that's basically what it is. It's troubleshooting. So anyways, again, thank you guys for watching. Shout out to all my subscribers. I can't remember all of y'all. Clark Raggett is the only one I remember off the top of my head. Who else? Doogie Housey. Shout out to all you guys on Twitter, labeveryday, Tony E, all of you guys. So again, thank you guys for watching the network, bruh. And add me on Twitter. Man, I just feel so accomplished right now. But anyways, I still got to take this exam. Thank you for watching the network.